After Donald Trump stated that it is Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelensky who refused to sign a peace agreement, while Vladimir Putin is supposedly ready for peace. Even today, the United States Senate spoke out sharply against the American president, and notably, it was the Republicans who spoke out against Trump. And this time they didn't mince words and said that Trump is frankly a pushover. And Putin, quote, provides lip service, and Trump falls for it. The influential Republican senator and chairman of the United States Senate Armed Services Committee, Roger Uiker, gave a speech in support of Ukraine. And during his speech, Wicker noted that there are a number of hotspots around the world. But the most dangerous thing happening in the world today is the war of the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin against freedom and the West in Ukraine. The senator pointed out that Putin has repeatedly shown that he is not interested in peaceful negotiations, as evidenced by his actions, in particular, large-scale air attacks on Ukraine. And in the end, Wicker stated directly that Putin is the biggest villain in the world, and Trump, is a coward if he can't do anything against him. Uiker also presented his own recipe for a real strategy against Putin, and it closely echoes the one that Ukraine has been voicing for several years now. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave any comment under this episode and at the end of the episode if you find it interesting and useful. You can support the work of this YouTube channel financially with your donation or a paid subscription using the links and details provided. In the description of this video, it says support the channel Alexei Pechi. Use any format that's convenient. I appreciate any support you provide.
We have no reason to smile back at Vladimir Putin or trust him with anything but caution and contempt.
So, the head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Republican Roger Uiker, spoke out in defense of Ukraine after Trump once again accused Ukraine of prolonging the war. Let me remind you, on January 14, Trump told Reuters that Ukraine, not Russia, is allegedly delaying the peace agreement. Next is his quote, "I think Vladimir Putin is ready to make a deal. I think Ukraine is less ready to make a deal." Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine has never been and will never be an obstacle to peace. And the massive Russian strikes are clear evidence that it is the Kremlin that does not want any peace agreements. And after that, Senator Wicker gave a speech in defense of Ukraine and strongly criticized Trump. Next, I will quote what Senator Wicker said. And in the description of this video, I will leave a link to the video of Senator Wicker's speech on social media. And if you are a reasonable person, follow the link and, in the comments on Senator Wicker's channel, thank him for his position on Ukraine. So, Wicker goes on to say, quote, "We are living in dangerous times. Outbreaks are happening all over the world, in this hemisphere, in Europe, and in the Indo-Pacific region. But I want to remind my colleagues that the most dangerous of all this is Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine against freedom and the West. Throughout the past year, Vladimir Putin has mocked the Ukrainian peace process, consistently escalating his attacks on the neighboring country. He has constantly demonstrated that he is not interested in peace talks. Putin pays lip service to peace negotiations, but his actions show a lack of interest. Ukraine should not be forced to surrender sovereign territory that it controls. Putin should not achieve at the negotiating table what he could not achieve on the battlefield, where he faces disappointment." Well, then Wicker goes on to say directly what exactly Donald Trump should do, quote, "The United States should play a role in providing security guarantees for Ukraine on a permanent basis, and the United States Senate should ratify these guarantees if they are agreed upon. The Ukrainian people should be given assistance to continue their fight for freedom. Zelensky is actually demanding this from the United States, and notably, it was Senate Republicans who backed ratifying security guarantees. They say that these guarantees should be permanent, so that all of this is legally binding." And then Wicker gave a perfect description of Vladimir Putin, quote, "I urge everyone to remember who we are dealing with." Vladimir Putin is not known to feel remorse. He was and always will be a KGB agent. He is a dictator with decades of bloodshed on his hands, the biggest thief in world history, a war criminal who should be behind bars right now. And of course, Putin is a liar. When Putin smiles at American negotiators, he acts as if we believe he is our friend. We have no reason to smile back at Putin or treat him personally, except with caution and, importantly, with contempt. After 4 years, Putin realizes his victory isn't guaranteed. More and more Americans see and know this. 70 Americans do not believe that Putin will honor any agreements with Ukraine. Putin is cut from the same cloth as terrorists around the world. In his attacks on civilians, we see parallels with Hamas terrorists who committed atrocities in Israeli communities. October 7, 2023, Putin's associates are terrorists. Well, it has finally been said in the United States Senate. Putin is a real terrorist, and he should be treated exactly the same as Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip. And not claim, like Trump does, that Putin wants peace or that he has a good relationship with him and so on. No, Putin is just like any other terrorist and should be treated the same, not negotiated with by sending Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner to Moscow. But I'll continue quoting Wicker. Vladimir Putin kidnapped 20,000 Ukrainian children, subjecting them to brainwashing procedures. These horrors show Xi Jinping's Uyghur re-education camps and Putin's imprisonment of dissidents. After Bashar Assad was overthrown, he fled to Moscow for safety. Vladimir Putin, who wants us to believe that he is an honest negotiator, advised Nicolas Maduro to flee. If he had fled, where would he have gone? Straight to Moscow. For decades, Moscow has been a friend of the Cuban regime, and now the supreme leader of Iran is weighing his options. Where do you think he will find refuge? The only place is Moscow. That's the whole company of Vladimir Putin. But in Putin, you can even hear echoes of Adolf Hitler. Putin constantly talks about, and I quote, liberating Russian-speaking Ukrainians in Donbass and other regions of Ukraine. These are the same vile pretexts that Hitler used when he invaded German-speaking regions of neighboring countries, including Poland. Ukrainians will continue to fight against his unprovoked attacks, not because they hate peace, but because the alternative is the disappearance of their country. You know, I won't spend much time analyzing such a powerful speech by the Republican senator. I'll just add that it's important this address reaches Donald Trump's ears, before he soon, very soon, on January 19th, meets with Volodymyr Zelensky and European leaders in Davos at the Economic Forum. Well, I'd like to believe that this will finally put everything in its place in Donald Trump's logic, but I'll leave it at that. Share your opinion and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. And as you remember, if you found this episode interesting and informative, you can support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation using the links and details in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye.